Hey there, how there, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to yet another Cutter Top 10 video. And today we're looking at the top 10 MLB injuries of all time, the most impactful injuries of all time. These are not ranked by anything other than most impactful injuries. Baseball has seen a lot of injuries. You can take a fly ball off any part of your body. You could run into a wall. You could be hit by a pitch. But yeah, it was just, you know, unbelievable. So we have for you um, 10 very impressive injuries you don't want to deal with. So here we go. Number 10 is Taylor Ward 2023. I put this on the list myself because of the fact that I was there to see that happen. So what happened was it was the Angels against the Blue Jays. Me and my church group, like the man's church group, went to see the Blue Jays game against the Angels. We were up in the 500s, but at least I was there at a Blue Jays game. But unfortunately, in the fourth inning, Alec Manoah was throwing a fastball and somehow it got Taylor Ward on the side of the head. And it was just horrible to see and all that. And, the dome grew silent and all that. So, yeah, Taylor Ward, yeah, that injury was just amazingly gruesome in a sense. But, you know, that's just hard to believe. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention I'm wearing the light blue Blue Jays shirt, of course. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, I saw that live and it actually hurt Taylor Ward. Well, he's pretty much almost every year he of that contract, other him or Anthony Rendon have just been injured too often. And it actually broke Alec Manoah because Manoah did not have the best 2023 season after that hit by pitch. And then in 2024, he just fell flat and wasn't on the Blue Jays radar anymore. Number 9 is Adam Greenberg, 2005. Adam Greenberg was tearing up in the minors and all that. And he was looking pretty good. So the Cubs gave him a tryout in September, like, the expanded rosters. So Greenberg was up at the plate against Florida. I can't remember the Florida pitcher, but anyway, Greenberg hit the first major league pitch he took off the head. A massive concussion, massive injuries, and all that. He felt like something broke in his head or something. But the fact is that, yeah, it ruined Adam Greenberg's career because, he would be recovering. He did make the major leagues, I think, 6 years later, but, that was just amazing. And, a lot of people said he was going to be a top prospect for the Cubs, but unfortunately, his career ended terribly. Number 8 is Jason Kendall in 1999. So Jason Kendall was this big hitting catcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. They even put him in the two slot, which you usually don't for a catcher. But Jason Kendall was special. He could hit the ball and he could prevent people from crossing the plate. Unfortunately, though, Kendall injured himself when he dislocated his ankle in a horrific play at first base. And, it was just massive rehab and all that. So, anyway. Number 7 is Kerry Wood. Kerry Wood was off like a rocket, like his hero Rocket Roger Clemens. In 1998, in his fifth career start, Wood took the mound in a lame duck afternoon game against the Houston Astros and threw slider after slider, getting hooks like curveballs and getting Houston to swing. He had 18 strikeouts in the first 8 innings and then two more in the ninth to make 20 strikeouts, making him the first National League pitcher to get to 20. Clemens had two 20-game marks already, like 86 and 96. But yeah, Currywood did that. And it was amazing seeing all those players, all those fans in right field wearing number 34 for Currywood and carrying K's and all that, like different jerseys, like Shaq, Hakeem Olajuwon, I think Barkley. Yeah. So yeah, that's what happened. And of course, a lot of things have to happen. So anyway, um, yeah, Kerry Wood was great, but then unfortunately those pitches took a turn on him. He had a UCL injury, a urinal collateral ligament. So he needed Tommy John surgery. He missed some time, and he was not the same starting pitcher. He would go to the bullpen and be a decent closer and all that. But yeah, Kerry Wood came back in 2003 and had a great season, even playing long ball in Game 7 in the NLCS. But it took a lot away from him. Number 6 is Dave Draficki, 1989. The story of Dave Draficki is huge because, he was a decent pitcher for the Padres. Then the Giants picked him up, but then they found some kind of cancerous tumor in his left arm. And at the end of 88, so they had to take it out. And basically, Draficki's strength in his left arm was so bad that he could barely lift 1 pound barbells. So Draficki kept doing rehab after rehab after rehab and trying to prove to everyone he could come back from baseball to baseball. So, he strengthened his arm. It got decent. He went to the minor leagues to pitch. And after a few starts, he felt good enough to be on the Giants. So the Giants gave him a shot. He pitched. I can't remember who he pitched. I would say the Astros, against the Astros in his first game. He threw a complete game victory, and it looked like the old Dave Truficki was back. Unfortunately, though, life would throw him a curveball, no pun intended. The next start was in Montreal against the Expos, who were chasing in the NL East. But Dave Trafficki in the fourth inning, or was it? No, sixth inning, threw a pitch and something snapped. Like you could hear the snap from the Montreal commentary booth. And Dave Van Horn said that there was something really wrong with Trafficki. So yeah, his left arm snapped and all that because he put too much pressure on that arm and all that. And it snapped. He had to have the left arm amputated and all that. But yeah, Trafficki would have been a decent part of the '89 Giants roster in the World Series, but he wasn't. The Giants did make the World Series, so that's good. But anyway, could have been better. Number 5 is Moises Alou in 1993. Moises Alou was this guy that Pittsburgh traded to Montreal for the rights to Sane Smith because Pittsburgh was not a playoff run, Montreal was not. So Moises Alou would be back in would be in Montreal. Fortunately for him, his father Philippe Alou was a well-known coach for the Montreal Expos. And finally, in 1992, after the disastrous Tom Ronald's army fatigue thing, he was running out of town, and Moises' dad Philippe became the manager, and he had confidence in Moises Alou to play. He didn't win Rookie of the Year. He should have won Rookie of the Year, but yeah. Alou's second full season in the majors in 1993, he was doing quite well. But unfortunately, in a play at home plate, I think it was in August. No, I can't be home plate. It was the second base. I remember that. Moises Alou was trying to beat out a tag, and then somehow his ankle just flew. But actually, no, to think about it, he was running from first to second, and then halfway through he stopped because his ankle bent at an angle and really was gruesome for the Montreal fans to see. Alou would make a comeback. Well, he didn't play the rest of the '93 season because of the injury, but in '94 he came back and he was pretty good. So, yeah, Alou had to come back from it. Number 4 is the man synonymous with a surgery, Tommy John, 1974. John had an elbow injury that was ruining him and all that. However, in Birmingham, Dr. Frank Jobe and also Dr. James Andrews later on would perfect something to take a muscle out of one of his legs and shoulders and put it in his shoulder or shoulder to his elbow. And surgery and technology in the 1970s was a far cry than 50 years later. But the fact of the matter is that Tommy John got the ligament he needed. to help his elbow, and he came back and he was pitching well into 1989. So it saved his career, and many people swear by the Tommy John surgery because it saved their careers in a way. Number three, where number three is Buster Posey, 2011. So Buster Posey was this great catcher in 2011. Well, in 2011, he was at a play of the plate against the Marlins. The the player was trying to beat the throw home. Posey went to tackle him, but it was a home plate collision, and Posey had his leg broken underneath him and torn ligaments, costing him the season. And Posey was this young gun, and a lot of people were thinking Posey was going to be hurt for the rest of his life. Fortunately, though, Posey bounced back. The 2012 season was huge because Posey was named NL MVP. So he won MVP the year after that torn ligament thing. And the MLB changed rules around the home plate, meaning that catchers couldn't completely block the plate. The catchers had to give a lane to the uh, runner. But as long as they give a lane and they tag him out, the guy's out. Number two is Tony Cogliano. I knew I would. Tony C. 1967. The Boston Red Sox in 1967 made an impossible run. They were 100-1 odds to win the AL pennant. And back in 1967, you had to win the AL or the NL to make the World Series. 1969 was when the playoffs had more teams. But yeah, so Boston was doing it. And then on August, I say 25th, 1967, Tony C was batting against Jack Hamilton of the Angels when Hamilton let a fastball get away from him and smashed Cogliano in the uh, face, in the cheek. So the cheek was puffed up, and then somehow it ruptured something in his eye. So he would have severe eye and facial injuries. I mean, it's very gruesome. Like the aftershot of it, like his eyes like swollen and his cheeks broken. It impacted his career. I mean, if Tony C was healthy during the World Series drive in 1967, what might have been? I mean, like maybe the Red Sox do pull it off against the Cardinals in the World Series. Who knows? Yeah, at least the Red Sox made it to the playoffs despite Tony C's injury. Tony C would take a while, and by 1970, he actually made a full fledged comeback. And it looked good. He had a 30 home run season that year. But unfortunately, though, his eyesight issues from that pitch from Hamilton wrecked him, and he was having problems. He suffered a stroke and died in 1992. I'd like to say, but yeah, that really ruined his career. I mean, if he was, and he was like 23, I think, right? Something like that, because he was like 19 when he started with the Red Sox, like 3 years prior. But yeah, he was what might have been. And number one is the massive fatality, the ultimate fatality, to be the only major league player to die on field because of an on field incident. It was Ray Chapman. Cleveland were chasing in 1920 the AL pennant and all that. They faced the New York Yankees at the Polo Grounds. People forget that the Yankees never fully played at Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium opened in 1923, the original one. So the Yankees had to play somewhere, and they had to share the Polo Grounds with the Giants, which kind of is stupid. But what can you do? But yeah, Chapman was was playing against Carl Mays. Carl Mays was known as a submariner who would throw the arm like this. Instead of overhand, it was to the side. Unfortunately, though, baseballs were not really taken out of play much, and then they had the mud on it and all that. So Mays threw a spitball and struck Chapman on the head so badly that the crack was so impressively sounding that uh, Mays thought that it hit the bat instead of the head and threw the first base, but it hit the head of Chapman. And basically, Chapman was motionless. They managed to carry him out on a stretcher and then put him in the hospital, but he died later in the evening. And Carl Mays basically was not the same pitcher in a sense because he felt terrible and all that. But Cleveland were not pissed off with him. Like It was part of the game. It did change a lot. Actually, Ray Chapman's death actually opened the door for a future Hall of Famer. His name, Joe Sewell, Sewell. Yeah, Joe Sewell came in, and he was pretty good. He was one of the most impressive batters that who barely struck out. So that was just amazing what he could do. But yeah, Joe Sewell's career worked out. But you know, Cleveland did win the 1920 World Series against Brooklyn, so they gave a full World Series share to his widow. Of course, they had to do everything for her. Major League Baseball acted quick. They decided to ban the spitball and to basically put more baseballs out of play. Like if it really looked like the baseball was dark and all that, they would throw it out and throw a new one in and all that. Baseballs weren't cheap, but they changed that rule in a sense. And the spitballers were not allowed to throw spitballers, but they did change. But they did make it a rule that if you legally threw the spitball and all that, you were grandfathered in, meaning that you could throw it technically. Furling Grimes, I believe, was the last spitballer to retire. That was 1934. But yeah, the spitball was basically outlawed, and baseballs would be taken out of play more often. So that's why. Too bad it took a massive injury over a century ago to change these rules like that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond, a dude.